Hey, what is up, my Weiss Schwarz Meisters? This is Dean here with Burn One today. Finally doing my follow-up on the Mill Runner video. It's been 3 weeks, I think, since that video, and there's a lot of, follow-up from you guys, right? And it's probably the most work I've put into following up on a video to make sure that, what I was saying wasn't complete bullshit. And you know what? I'm pretty sure I was actually right. And even if you don't agree with the math side, our good friend Zabuton out there on Twitter, you can Google him, look him up on Twitter, either or, did a follow-up article saying, even if you don't think that the math doesn't matter, it's generally better not to mill because it removes a climax from your deck, right? And removing a climax either on the perfect cancel or on the mill, either one is not typically ideal because you could draw that climax to push extra damage. That could be the climax you need for your level 1 combo. It could be the climax that otherwise you would brainstorm, right? In general, it's like that mill removes one of the most important resources. It was kind of its follow-up, and generally not to mill if your card is going to die anyway and you don't deny your opponent any advantage. But that's not the purpose of today's video, right? We're trying to up people's game, and I'm going to be going over, if you don't know what this is, they call this a torch. It's in Goblin Slayer, it's in Seven Deadly Sins, it's in Mob Psycho. A lot of other random sets have it, right? This is like the Dog Days one. And basically what this does, if you don't play the game, you don't have to be familiar with the terminology, this is a counter where you can mill up to the top 4 of your deck during your opponent's attacks, all right? The idea is that it's like the calling card, the Mill 4 event, but it's a counter. So that's really what it is. And I'm going to be basically going over why I don't believe that you should use this almost ever on your opponent's turn, right? So, and I'm going to preface this with, you definitely should use this if you're playing something like Goblin Slayer where you get power for using events. Or if you're looking for an anti-change counter or a counter that helps you win another lane, right? If you can use this counter into seeing a counter off of your deck or an anti-change or something that spooks your opponent, or if you're using this to get power, then you're not using it for the mill. But I see some people argue that, oh, you're going to use this and you're going to mill 2 to 3 cards and then you're going to stop. And that's just basically playing blackjack. And it gets into the same thing as the mill runner argument, but way worse, right? Because you're seeing 3 cards. So I think it's it just actually doesn't change the amount that you cancel. Or if you did it 10,000 times, right, it shouldn't change the amount of times you cancel in those games, right? It may in a few games be high rolling, but that's why I call it blackjack, right? Is that's kind of all you're playing. But then here's another part of the argument is, what are you supposed to grab when you do this, right? Because if you do this on your opponent's turn, you don't know what you need to grab. And I mean that because let's say you see 3 cards. You see a Brainstorm, and you don't have a Brainstorm yet. You see an early play, and you're level 1, right? You're level 1. You see an early play Brainstorm, and then you see something random level 1, or you see your level 1 climax combo. Because you don't know what you're drawing for turn, because you don't know if you're going to hit a Brainstorm, because you don't know if you're canceling, right, this early play could end up being a dead card that ends up hurting your hand. This Brainstorm, you could draw a second one. You usually need 1 Brainstorm anyway. And then your level 1, who knows, you might draw the climax for it, and then, or you might not, right? If it's a level 1 climax combo. So the knowledge that you have on what the proper card to grab is. Also, sometimes right, you might go 4 with this and then be left in a weird deck state where you're left with a 3-card deck and you have a climax in hand. Because an extra, you took an extra damage or you had to use an extra mill somewhere that you weren't expecting to have to. So that basically the one of my main arguments is okay, just not to use this because you don't know what you need to grab, and since you're just playing blackjack, why would you not just save this for your turn after you see how the damage falls, after you see what's going on, after you see what your draws are, you use your increased knowledge of what your deck state is, and then you can leverage this. Also, this is an on-command mill that you just used on just used randomly, right? You just used it to mill 2 random cards that probably didn't help you. You didn't know which card was the best one to grab. So yeah, if you're using a mill counter blind on a thick deck specifically, right? We're gonna go over some deck, like a deck state that like, where you can think about like how the mills will affect your deck. I just don't see it's worth it. So, okay. All right, there's that. So let's go over a deck that like maybe you would use these, right? Like you would use these power or not, right? So if we have a, like kind of an example, right? Like let's say we have a 10 or an 11 card deck. There we go. That should be 11. No. Oh, these cards. Let's say we have an 11 card deck, right? We have an 11 card deck with one climax. And we have double mill counter, right? And our opponent's going to swing for 3/3, whatever. It doesn't actually matter. And we have this one climax in deck. This is one of the cases where you would blind this every time at the beginning. And the reason is you can actually get to your next deck by utilizing this, right? If you're out 8 and you're on a small deck, you can usually leverage this, depending on like what your deck state is and like how many cards you're going to see. Definitely try to use it then. So like 11 cards, and we have a climax here, right? It's going to be somewhere. So if our opponent's swinging 3/3, right? 3 plus 3 is 6. 10, right? Like we can get over 11. We can get over 11 if they swing for 3, 7, 11, right? If we do double torch before the second hit attacks, second hit sticks. So let's say that we're in this this deck state, right? If we don't see a climax in the top 4, right? If we mill 4 clean, we're now 1 in 6. And we can just choose to stop, or 1 in 7. We're 1 in 7, right? And we can choose to let that 3, like right, if we eat the first 3, there's only a 25% chance the climax is on bottom. And we can choose to try to like let our deck decide if that's if we're gonna get that cancel or not, right? And if we mill the climax in the top 4, right? If you mill the climax in the top 4, it's not actually a big deal. Because, yeah, you're going to eat the first 3, but you're going to be left with a 4-card deck, and your second torch will see the rest of the deck. So then you'll get to refresh, and that attack and the next attack will be processed on the next deck. So if you like, just take notice of like your low deck states where the torch will get you through. Because like if this was a 14-card deck with like 1 climax, you probably don't torch. You probably don't torch because it's just like, you can't get all the way through the deck, at least on the first attack. Well, if you torch, you probably torch on the first. It doesn't actually matter. I'm sorry for adding some confusion to this video. It shouldn't matter if you torch or not, but like on a 15 or 16 card deck where the torch cannot get you all the way through the deck, I don't believe you should torch, just because, right, you're removing this climax from the deck that like otherwise you could be used to push damage. You're more than likely going to cancel, and then you can save these torches for a later deck where they could actually do something. But yeah, so that's basically a quick overview on torches, like a quick example on when you might need to use them, and hopefully this helps some people think about their mills a little bit more, right? Like using it, and how they leverage their resources. And I hope to do another video before next week. I know I said that on the last video, but we're going to try. And until next time, this is Dean signing out.